Our first series of the day will be between Vines and Sortof. We'll kick things off with the PVZ on Cloud Kingdom. And you know what? No more stalling. You guys had lots of stalling between MLG games. We know. So let's go ahead and get game number 1 started immediately and introduce our players.
Look, I get it. There can be a lot of stalling. I get it, bro.
Listen, we get it, man. We get it.
Fired the guy.
We fired the sound guy.
We did?
We fired a lot of people, Andre, but we're bringing on lots of cool things. And of course, that's all part of our Season 4 package. As you can see in the bottom right, Season 4 pre-sale of HD passes are only $15.99 right now. It's a 20% discount compared to what you would normally get at $19.99. $16 compared to $20.
And it's like 4 to 6 months of top Koreans and foreigners. Yes. Matched up against each other. Of course, we have a finals where you guys can go to. Last time it was awesome over in Canada, Toronto, Canada. Absolutely fantastic over there. These two players, of course, looking for a shot to go to the NASL Season 4 finals. We're going to see right now, in the top right-hand corner, we have Sortof spawning as the blue Zerg up against the bottom left-hand yellow Protoss. It is, of course, Empire Vines.
Vines, one of the Protoss players that constantly flies under the radar because everyone knew him as an online warrior for a long time. He plays very, very well on ladder just because he gets high ranks in GM. It doesn't matter what server he's on, if he's on EU, North America, and Korea. He's been at least, I know he hit #1 in NA and he was close to #1 in EU, and I can just assume how well he performed back over in Korea. So he's one of these guys that really wants to make a name for himself, and that's why he joined a foreigner team like Empire shortly after Violet left. But I think at this point, we'll see whether or not Sortof can advance as well. Sortof, another person really underappreciated because he's overshadowed by other EU Zergs like Stefano, Nurchio, and I guess even other Swedish players in general. We always point that out, like Naniwa and Sase. They get all the attention, but it's time that people talk about Sortof.
Sortof definitely a very powerful Zerg. We saw him hold off beautiful all-ins last time by Miso. Yesterday, that's when that happened. You can find out all the games, actually, if you go over to our YouTube account, youtube.com/NAStarLeague. But right now, we've seen a huge array of builds coming out from Sortof, but they're all defensive builds. What that tells me is he likes to play that macro game. He likes to go into that end-game, mid-game stage and just outplay you over there. He hasn't chosen to go some all-in at all. We haven't seen that from him, which I always love to see, especially in the NASL. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I am a little bit biased. When you start cheesing every single game, I'm going to call you out on it.
But
I'm going to call you a scrub.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is single elimination, Andre. Winner advances, loser goes home. And when you're this close, especially when you're in the semifinals, where if you lose here, you get nothing for your 3-4 days of labor. Oh. You can definitely tell that both players really want to advance as far as they can. There's been interviews with Vine saying he really wants to make it into the foreigner scene. He wants to start competing in tournaments, wants to go to things like IEM and, well, NASL, clearly. We'll see what Vines has in store as well. He's a player that has all different kinds of styles. One of these guys that we're pioneering different kinds of ladder builds like the Gateway Expand instead of a Forge Fast Expand and really pressure early on. But again, Vine's capable of busting out all kinds of styles. I like to see his Stargate play, though. We saw that earlier in Qualifier play, and I think it was really good.
Look at this Cybernetics score. Very interesting placement. This could be actually hidden just so that he kind of hides the Chrono Boost allocation. Maybe he does, in fact, Chrono Boost Warp Gate out as fast as possible. It doesn't look like it right now. No, he's not. He's Chrono Boosting all of his Nexuses. So I don't think it's going to be some tricky gateway all-in, but definitely the case. Sort of has to be wondering, where the heck is your Cybernetics core? I have to be a little bit careful because normally it's at that wall.
Yeah, but instead he's going to place everything close to the ramp. And this is a very difficult spot for the Overlords to initially poke in without threatening to lose the Overlords, so I like it by Vine. Just a little way to make Sortof work harder if he wants that information.
Sure. And at this point, we have very standard play coming out from Sortof. I mean, I think what he really needs to focus on, obviously, is just scouting. Normally, there is around a 7-minute scout to just see what your opponent is capable of. We see a robotics facility right here. Normally, when a Zerg sees robotics facility, they say, okay, I have about 15 to 30 more seconds. I have to be careful for finesse plays, like something like a Warp Prism or even a small count of Immortals. and a little tiny push. But other than that, if I don't sense anything like that, I have like 30 seconds to a minute to drone up a little bit more. That is one larva inject round.
I definitely agree. Now, we do see that Sortof is macroing up very nicely, getting his Roach running at a pretty comfortable time just before the 7-minute mark. Very standard, and of course, that's kind of the style Sortof's been playing. It's so interesting that we have Sortof and Bly, two guys that play very opposite spectrums. More of the standard macro, I'm just going to go ahead and read what you're doing, respond accordingly, and crush your attacks. And then you have Bly that says, well, I'm going to proxy hatchery or Spinecrawler rush you and force you in situations that you're not used to and kill you with Hydras.
Yeah. For some reason, I completely forgot about the Hydra, so when you said that, it's just absolutely fantastic. Bly was, you know, historically a player that just went Hydras no matter what. It didn't matter. He was going to apply pressure and just defend with Hydras. It didn't matter if he had 4 Colossus out or 7 Colossus out. He was going to go Hydras every single time. And it's really interesting to see that now Vines is preparing for a big 6-gate, it looks like. 6-gate, maybe even 8-gate. Yes, he's adding on additional gateways right now. So he's ramping up the gateway production. This will be an Immortal timing. 3 Immortals, and he probably makes a War Prism. A single War Prism out of that and just shoves as many units down your throat, and hopefully the Zerg will crumble.
Yes, and this push has been documented for many months now in PvZ metagame. A lot of players struggle with it. I remember Ret complaining a lot, just saying, why is this? Why do I keep losing to these push? And it's really good, especially on a map like Cloud Kingdom, where you can kind of position your Warp Prism really far away while still having a good position to force field and reinforce, especially by this 3rd to 4th area. But that's also the point where a lot of Zergs start spreading creep, and that might come into play, especially since Sortof has some upgrades timed very nicely. And now we're going to see whether or not Vines can be able to do this. He does have pretty good micro in terms of force fielding placement. And we'll see if he's able to really push in here. What does Sortof also need to do, Andre, in order to hold off this push?
You know, the name of the game in this position is actually position. You want to get position. You want to be able to flank your opponent. And look at this. I love this. This is another thing. You want to be able to get space on your opponent to bait force field. Because the least amount of force fields, or excuse me, the more force fields that get baited right now, the better, of course. He does not want to be in a position where he actually engages with his roaches and Zerglings over here right next to the hatchery. That's very, very tough to stop. We're going to see if Vines has what it takes, though. This might be the big engagement. No.
Good force field dodges thus far, but now Vines has the full engagement and Sortof does have some roaches flanking from the south and reinforcing from his 3rd hatchery. Now, these 3 Immortals are tucked very nicely away. No threat to them whatsoever. They are the crux of this push. If the Immortals drop, then you have to have a huge Stalker count to follow up. But Sortof is waiting for more Zerglings, more roaches. Did he buy himself enough time? We'll find out, but Empire Vines for now, it has used a lot of his force field energy. Only has around 3 or 4 left. This is
very difficult, Sortof. You can see already preparing drones. He needs to come in from all 4 sides. He's coming in from all 4 sides, and no good force fields are going to be had. But look, he does segment a little bit off. He needs to back off from here. I think Vines misplayed that ever so slightly, but still looking in great position. He's just going to reload with additional units. Of course, Sortof is going to reload as well, but the fact of the matter is those Immortals still stand. This is still really difficult, but a lot less force fields exist.
Yeah, there's only 2 force fields left by my count, and that's not enough to even block off the ramp completely. And you can see the drones also tank some of the damage. The Queen also trying to get into the fray.
Wow.
Gonna target down a lot of these units, and the Empire Vines' Immortals are completely exposed. 1 Immortal will drop. The 2nd one under fire as well. The reinforcement is trying to put Zealous completely back into the front line, but Sortof completely overwhelms. GG! And game number 1 goes to Sortof from Western Wolves.
Brilliant.
Holding off the 2 base Immortal all in. That so many Zergs struggle, and if you struggle with that build, good demonstration of how to hold it off.
That was awesome. If I want to be critical on the Protoss Vines, you're attacking into the path that is the only path that has creep extended. Don't go there. Go into the top left or go into the natural. Those 2 places really didn't have the capabilities of running in, running out, and all of a sudden you have to use force fields unnecessarily. Very unfortunate situation, though, for Vines. I have to say, Sortof held that off beautifully. He pulled drones perfectly, retained his roaches, and was able to just barrel down as soon as all the Zealots were able to be cleaned up.